Good morning and welcome to the Dallas Download. I'm Kayla and this is a show where we talk entertainment and lifestyle. We've got local stories, helpful tips, and a few surprises along the way. This week we've got this.
For our boys, we're seeing a lot of taper fades, taper blowouts, and I hate to say it, but the mullet has never left. It's only been modified.
So starting with Google is not necessarily a problem. It's finding your result that's an issue. So you're going to get a lot of client reviews, client testimonials, and content that the lawyers and the law firms actually want you to hear and read about them, written by them.
All that and more right here on the Dallas Download.
Some people travel for the sights, some people travel for the food. Braun Strowman does both and usually orders enough for the whole table. The WWE superstar is back for another season of Everything on the Menu, where he visits some of America's best food cities, meets local legends, and tries everything from neighborhood favorites to high-end dining spots. Joining us now is Braun Strowman. Welcome to the show, my friend. How are you, my friend?
Oh, I'm fantastic. Just, the season is just unbelievable, man. It's truly cool to see the evolution of where we've gone from season 1 into season 2 with having the guest on the show. My production team in post-production did such an amazing job of filming this and editing it. It really, it makes you feel like you're part of that conversation. You're sitting at that table, you're breaking bread. And at the end of the day, that the idea of this whole show come about with this is my love for going out and taking people out to eat food, getting them to try new experiences in the culinary arts and walk of life, and just have fun. Food is a vessel to bring people together to get them together at the table for conversation. I had guests that I'd never met before, so I have new friends. So you're kindling relationships, you're catching up with old friends, you're falling in love. All centered around food. And why not do it with the biggest, baddest SOB on the planet? And you're looking at him right here with Braun Strowman every Friday night on USA Network. Life is absolutely awesome.
All right, this new season takes you to 12 different cities across the country. What were some of the places that really surprised you this time around?
Oh man, honestly, it's always evolving. I'm so excited. I mean, I'm 350 pounds. I didn't get this way by accident. So clearly I'm a foodie as hard as it is. So for me, my day-to-day life, I'm eating out of a Tupperware. I'm weighing out all my proteins, my carbohydrates to the gram. So at the end of all that, like I said, doing this for weeks on end and then getting to do the everything on the menu is my escape as well. It's the ultimate cheat meal. It's getting out there. Not all calories are meant to be the best for your body, but some of them feed your soul. And I make sure I keep my soul fed. I make sure I keep this giant meat castle that I am fed, and then making memories and putting smiles on people's faces. At the end of the day, that's what I love doing. That's what I truly believe I was put on this earth to do, was to entertain and make people happy. And I'm enjoying and loving it along the way.
That's killer. When you spend years traveling for WWE, but the show gives you a chance to experience cities on a completely different way. What do you learn about a place when you sit down and just share a meal there?
It's really neat because how the format of the show with doing the 2 restaurants every episode, and that first half of the show being the signature dish for that city, for that region, and shining a light, proverbial light, on some of these older restaurants that have been around. All those restaurants I do are 40, 50, 60, 70 years. And, some of them aren't up to date on their social media games and all this. So being able, and then knowing what we did in season 1 of having some of the highest, if not the highest, demo ratings in that 18 to 44, is now knowing that these generational restaurants are getting seen by the next generation. I've talked to people that went to some of these restaurants and they live in the town of it's been there for 6 years. I didn't even know this restaurant was here. So hearing those stories, seeing prime example, Beefy King in Orlando is a roast beef sandwich shop that I went to in season 1. It's been open for almost 60 years. Every time I've gone there since we did that episode there, you can't even get into the parking lot. Before I headed out to start all the crazy media tour and all this other stuff, getting ready season 2 premiere that just happened June 5th. Walked in and there was 4 people standing in line that had saw the rerun of the episode the night before. We're in Orlando on vacation. We're like, we have to go to BB King. I walk in, their eyes lit up. No way you're here. They ordered my custom sandwich on it that they put on the menu. So it's really cool to see this resonating with the fans and continuing that buzz and, helping breathe life into some of these restaurants that have been around for a long time that aren't forgotten, but just somewhat aren't, the forefront of the food scene. And then the other half of the restaurant where I go in and do everything on the menu, that's where, you get this opportunity. These restaurants have this opportunity to show their full Rolodex to all the clientele and customers and foodies alike out there. And while all the great food shows that have been before me and stuff like that, you've got to see a little bit of here and there, 1, 2, 3, maybe 4 dishes. So with being everything on the menu and seeing this whole, here's my cards, here's what this restaurant has to offer, and then sitting down now, season 2, having a guest with me and being able to have the debates back and forth. What do you taste in this? How do you understand? What is your palate telling you? And then with mine as well, and then having the conversation, talking about life and everything else in between. And it just makes for, all honesty, I wish the show was longer. I think 30 minutes isn't enough.
The season features a pretty incredible mix of guests, from comedians to musicians to athletes and fellow WWE stars. And hopefully next season you bring in bad TV hosts of local TV shows. I'd be happy to have lunch with you.
Everybody likes to eat. Let's go. And don't put yourself down. We don't do that. Lift yourself up. You're a great TV host.
All right. Who else brought the most unexpected energy to the table?
Oh my goodness. Without telling too much, because you got to tune in live every week to watch, I can't be giving away too much. Honestly, it was special every episode. It's so cool because I had so many different walks of life and hearing people's stories and their backstories and what's got them to where they are, what continues to keep them pushing and evolving, and then what their love is for food. It was so cool to see people, starting to understand, or some of the guests that I had, I didn't know they were such foodies. So it's really cool to sit there and have that conversation, because that's the fun thing about food is everybody, it's a little different to everyone, and it's having that opportunity to have that conversation. And like I said, that food is the whole reason that it brings people together. So why not celebrate and eat everything on the menu?
Excellent. After visiting all these restaurants and meeting the people behind them, what do you hope viewers take away from the show, just beyond, just getting hungry watching you eat?
I think the biggest thing for me is trying to get people to step outside their normal comfort zone in their foods. I've discovered my motto in life is I'll try anything twice to make sure I don't like it, especially in the food space. So there's not much at this point that I haven't consumed in my life. That was the blessing that I had with being a WWE superstar for 12 years, traveling all around the world, getting to try so many different walks of life in the culinary space and falling in love with the different cooking techniques and the fusions and the ingredients and all that. And now with everything on the menu, almost every episode, I'm pretty sure, if not, it was few and far between, but I got the guests to try foods that they'd never tried before. So I'm hoping with my blue collar approach, and I'm not educated in the culinary arts. I've just been blessed to travel around and get to eat a lot. 350 pounds didn't happen by accident. And I guess the Lord blessed me with this giant tongue with a bunch of extra taste buds or something like that. I don't know. But that just being said, man, life's so cool, man. It's really neat. Like I said, getting to catch up with some of my friends, get to meet these new personalities and share bread and just talk about life. It just makes for a good time.
Braun, it's a pleasure to have you on the show. For more information and to catch new episodes of Everything on the Menu, check it out Friday nights on USA Network or head to usanetwork.com. Braun Strowman, thanks for hanging out with me, my friend. So what would you do if someone from your past came back to turn your life upside down? That's the chilling idea behind Cape Fear, the new psychological thriller that's been keeping viewers on edge. Joining us today are Collias and Malia Pyles, who play Natalie Boden and Nevaeh Valentine in the series. Welcome to the show, you two. How are you?
Hey, we're
Good.
How are
Happy
you?
to be here.
Very happy to be here.
Cape Fear is packed with suspense, but it's also very character-driven. What drew each of you to your characters?
I think the fluidity of her arc, for me personally, I think Natalie is the kind of girl who didn't ever have to second guess things in her life. And it was so interesting to play someone that, like, I don't think it's calculated whatsoever, because, the circumstances are so specific that playing with what she's feeling even on that day or like that night, like, because she's just finding out new things every single day. It was just such a blessing.
Yeah. I love Natalie so much.
She loves Nevaeh.
I know. And we love each other.
What can we say?
With Nevaeh, it was similar, where it's like, it was pretty obvious right off the bat that she's like a deeply complex character. And I so value Nick, our showrunners and our creators, writing. Just based off her name too, Nevaeh is literally heaven backwards. I was like, there's an immediacy to. I'm like, there's an attention to detail and a style to this show that's like really intriguing to me. And I never had the opportunity to play a character that's so villainous at times. And I think that was such a cool person to be in step with for so many months.
Without giving anything away, your characters develop an interesting friendship. What was it like building that relationship together on set?
I mean, it's so easy because Malia as a person is someone that I connect with. I'm so grateful to call her like one of my best friends now.
Yeah.
We really like had each other's backs, and we go through some intimate things together as characters, and the fact that we would be able to go home together and discuss and kind of just like throw ideas to a wall
Yeah.
together was just like such a blessing, because at the end of the day all we want to do is play. So it was just so fun to have that relationship with you.
Yeah, there was like an immediacy there. I mean, we met in the car and we were just both like completely vibrating with energy, and it was really easy to get to fall in love with these characters and then fall in love with her in a lot of ways. I mean, like she said, we'd go home from work after these crazy long days and like watch movies together and then bring parts of those movies into work the next day and be like, hey, can we bring this to our characters? And so, I mean, it was in a lot of ways just like a great lesson in trust and building something that feels at times like greater than just like the work you're putting out.
The series has such an incredible cast, including Javier Bardem, Amy Adams, Patrick Wilson. What did you learn from working alongside actors like that?
So much every single day. I think at the core of it is to put things that are genuinely important in your life first, and your artistry comes alongside with your life. And they were just always so grounded and humble with their ways of teaching. And I think like Javier feels like very almost like dreamlike in his process, and Amy's super technical. Everyone just like brought different things to the table, and I feel like it all just like mixed so well together.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing like doing a horror beat with Patrick Wilson when you get to be the creepy thing behind his shoulder. I'm like, I feel like I'm in Insidious. Like, it's so cool.
I love making this perfect, gorgeous man go through hell.
Hey, I want to thank you two for joining me today. Cape Fear is streaming now on Apple TV with new episodes released every Friday. Malia, Lily, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day.
Bye.
Have you ever rooted for two characters to finally figure it out, even though life keeps getting in the way? That's a big part of what has fans coming back to Ransom Canyon. Season 2 picks up 6 months later, and with more questions about love, family, and what home really means. Joining us are the stars of the series, Josh Duhamel and Minka Kelly. Welcome to the show, you two. How are you?
Thank you.
Good to have you.
Season 2 picks up 6 months after the finale without giving anything away. Where do we find Staten and Quinn emotionally when we see them again?
Well, I think that, if I could take that one, my character is definitely ready to treat this relationship with the care that it deserves. Because I think he realizes after having these 6 months away, he realizes that he probably could have made more of an effort, probably could have done things differently, could have called, could have wrote, could have gone to see her, didn't do any of those things. And I think that he really wants to right the wrongs of, the past mistakes he's made in this relationship. And then he finds out very quickly after that she moved on, and it's too late, dude.
One of the big themes this season is choosing between the life you built and the life you dreamed about. Minka, what makes Quinn's decision so difficult this time around?
Well, she was in 6 months, in New York for 6 months, and, it's a little easier, out of sight, out of mind, to romanticize this new life that she could possibly live, and meets this new guy who on paper makes so much sense and says and does all the right things. And then she goes home as she'd always planned, and she's then faced with this new version of Staten that she's wanted from him her whole life. And it's a little too late. So now she's in this predicament of, do I turn my back on this new thing that feels fresh and new and potentially promising, or do I take the opportunity, this chance to fulfill this dream of hers, where she comes home, where she realizes that home isn't just this place, it's this person. And that just becomes so undeniable for her. And home is where the heart is.
And Josh, Staten has always been driven by protecting his family's legacy, but this season seems to put love more at the center of his journey. How does that change him?
Well, I think that the two kind of go hand in hand. The ranch has been so part of him and his family for so long that he sort of conflates the two. Like family, land, legacy are all kind of part of what he all he cares about really. And when he loses, sorry, I took this hat from the set. I'm going to take it off. When he loses his family in season 1, he sort of loses his purpose and not really sure how he wants to go forward with the ranch. And I think that there's something happens along the way when I think it's after she leaves that he really realizes that he wants to share this with her. He doesn't want to go forward without having Quinn with him. And all of these things sort of come together to give him this purpose to keep going with the ranch and keep doing these things that he's done forever. And without her, there's not really much reason to keep doing it.
Also, the chemistry between the two of you has become one of the biggest reasons fans have embraced the show. What is it like continuing that relationship this season now that the stakes are even higher?
I think this season was really fun exploring this. It's a whole different sort of energy between the two of them. It's like she was gone and was able to just sort of, she went to play with the New York Phil and choose herself and live this new fun life out of sight, out of mind, and have some fun for a little while. And then she comes home to this new version of Staten where he's so light and charming and funny, and this is the love of her life. And so that new dynamic between them is really fun in season 2 to play with and to be genuinely charmed by. And so it's a big difference from season 1 and season 2 in that regard, I think, which is really fun.
Josh, Minka, I really want to thank you for hanging out with me today. Ransom Canyon Season 2 is now available to stream on Netflix. Thanks for hanging out with me this morning.
Thanks for having us.
Most of us probably don't think about finding a lawyer until we actually need one. And then suddenly there are a million places telling us who to choose. Google, online reviews, social media, even AI can all point you somewhere. But how do you know you're finding a great lawyer and not just someone who's great at marketing? Philip Greer is CEO of Best Lawyers and joins us now. Welcome, Philip.
Thank you so much for having me today.
So when someone suddenly needs a lawyer and the stakes are high, what should they be looking for to know they're choosing a skilled attorney?
I think the first thing to remember is you're in your most vulnerable state, and it's probably the first time you've ever even thought about looking for a lawyer. So you don't even have a good frame of reference for what a good lawyer is. Maybe you have a friend who's a lawyer and you can call and they can help you out. But if you don't have that friend who's an attorney, then you can use a service like Best Lawyers. We can help you when you're highly overwhelmed and you don't even know where to start. We can find that the right representation for you.
And a lot of us probably start with Google. How do search engines decide which lawyers we see first, and why can that be a problem?
So starting with Google is not necessarily a problem. It's finding your result that's an issue. So you're going to get a lot of client reviews, client testimonials, and content that the lawyers and the law firms actually want you to hear and read about them, written by them. So that oftentimes it's the large law firms or the law firms with a large marketing budget that rise to the top. So Best Lawyers, we take a different approach. We believe that the best lawyers know who the best lawyers are. So our results, our list is created based solely on the feedback or the reviews of other lawyers.
And tell us more about Best Lawyers. How is it different from the other resources people might find online?
Yeah, so in the US, there's over 1.3 million practicing attorneys. It's quite overwhelming. So if you go to a general list or online, it's going to be really hard to find a result set. Imagine San Diego, the city itself, has over 1.3 million people. Try to find one person for a specific need in that group. It's too much. So we actually filter that down through our review process. We recognize the top 5% of lawyers in the US, and you can't pay your way onto it. You have to be re-vetted every single year in our annual process, and it stands out. Our vetting process is still the same. Lawyers who vote on other lawyers because they know the work product of their fellow attorneys.
And I know you put a lot of emphasis on peer recognition. Why is that such an important measure of a lawyer's professional reputation and experience?
So the legal industry is a unique industry in the sense that not a lawyer can't take on every client. And oftentimes they need to pass on a client to another lawyer. So they have to do a lot of referrals. In cases where they have to do that, they want to know that the lawyer they're sending them to is qualified and is going to take care of them. So because of this, networking is naturally built into the legal profession. And that's the foundation of our research process. It's actually one of the questions we ask when doing our surveys every year. If you couldn't take on a client, if you couldn't take this client on, who would you recommend them to?
And the annual Best Lawyers rankings are coming out soon. Tell us how those rankings work and why they've become so respected.
Yeah, so we've been around for over 40 years. The original goal was to connect consumers and clients to lawyers to help them find representation for their matter. We've been fulfilling that promise every year to the general public, and we're really proud of the work we've done. I've been at Best Lawyers now for over 20 years, and the idea that we continue to vet and release this annual list that gives consumers comfort when they're in this overwhelmed and vulnerable state, it's the right thing to do, and we're excited for it every single year.
And finally, my friend, where can viewers go for more information?
For more information, go to bestlawyers.com, put in your city, your state, and start reviewing lawyers around you, and know that they've been vetted, they're highly qualified, and they can actually help you in this trying time.
Philip, Greer, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
The jobs students are preparing for are changing fast, and AI is speeding that up even more. But here's the problem. 52% of Texas workers already say they don't feel prepared for the next generation of jobs. So are our schools even keeping up? Amit Sevak is CEO of ETS and joins us now. Welcome to the show, Amit.
Kayla, thanks for having me. It's back to school season. It's a great time to be talking about how do we help get all of our kids in Texas and around the country ready for what comes next. Thank you.
Absolutely. So let's start with the big picture. Are schools actually preparing students for the jobs they'll need to compete for tomorrow?
Well, Kayla, our schools could be doing better. Let's start with math and reading. These are the basics. This is the foundation. And in Texas and around the country, only about half of those kids that are entering middle school and only about half of those kids entering high school are really ready for the math and reading at their grade level. So we've got to strengthen the foundations because math and reading are still going to become really important for us well into the future. We also need to start orienting kids earlier, ideally middle school, to the different kinds of jobs that are starting to emerge. The future of work is now, so starting to give them more orientation to those kinds of jobs, inviting guest speakers in, having interactions with different kinds of jobs, understanding pathways to those future jobs is really important. And we've got to double down on human skills, particularly in high school, communication, collaboration. That's what the world of work wants. And so that's just an opportunity now to start to strengthen those, define those, measure those, introduce those into the curriculum on a more regular basis.
And AI has changed the conversation pretty quickly. What does a student need to know now that maybe wasn't as important just a few years ago?
AI is changing everything in education. Done well, AI can really help students prepare, give them real-time feedback, help them personalize their learning. But AI not done well in education can lead to cheating, can lead to being a substitute for learning, and really replacing critical thinking. So we need a balanced approach to AI. We do want some orientation to AI, but we want a responsible approach to it. And look, we're in back to school season. This is a perfect time for parents, for teachers to be really having this kind of conversation of what type of AI and what kind of safeguards can we protect our children with.
And we're spending a lot on education. So how do states measure whether that investment is actually working?
We're spending, Kayla, $1 trillion on education right now, $1 trillion across the country. This is a lot of money. And the reality is that the return on that investment is quite uneven right now. This is an opportunity to really start asking questions. Look, education is on the ballot this election season, this fall. And this is an opportunity for us as voters to start asking, are we getting the return on investment in terms of readiness? Sure, we're spending a lot on buildings and a whole bunch of things, but what can we do to really strengthen job readiness and life readiness for our students? So things like strengthening math and reading, career orientation, human skill development, these are the kinds of investments that are really going to turbocharge readiness. And that's the kind of areas that we need to encourage our elected officials to start spending more money on to help prepare our children for the future.
So when we're trying to fix what's not working, how much does accountability actually matter?
So accountability is basically measurement on a regular basis of math, reading, and other domains like science. So accountability is still important because we want to track year-over-year progress, but it's not enough. We need to continuously measure. We need to engage with teachers. We need to make sure parents are getting visibility on continuous progress. These are the kind of broad conversations. But the exciting thing for me right now is because people are becoming more sensitive to what we can do to improve readiness for our students, to make sure high school kids are ready for the future, to make sure college kids are getting jobs right out of college. This is a moment right now for us to start thinking about how can we hold all of these systems, high school and higher ed, accountable for future readiness.
And where can partnerships between the public and private sectors help get students ready for the workforce?
I'm a big fan of exploring new partnerships, whether at the state level or the city of Dallas, Fort Worth area. or certainly down at the school district level, it's really important that organizations in education start exploring partnerships. Many organizations exist out there that have a pulse of what's going on in the job market. Those kind of organizations can help schools strengthen their ability to get work ready. Internship programs, CTE programs, apprenticeship programs. There's a whole range of partners that are out there. It's good and important as parents and voters to constantly ask the question, is this partnership effective? And find measurable ways to demonstrate that outcome. But I encourage partnerships because we need all the help we can to really strengthen all of American schools to help our children become future ready.
And before we go, where can people go for more information?
ETS.org, our website, and the website of our sister organization, ACT.org.
Amit, Sevak, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much for having me.
Back to school season means shopping, schedules, and trying to squeeze in that fresh haircut before the first day. And it doesn't have to be another stressful stop on the list. Joining us now is Astoria Stubbs, Great Clips' National Design Team Lead. Hi, Astoria. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Kayla. Thanks for having me.
So what haircut styles are kids asking for the most this back to school season?
So the 90s have returned. So we are seeing lots of curtain bangs, face frame, lots of texture and layer in the inside for our girls. The bobs have not gone out of style. They have returned, and we are seeing lots of texture and volume to them. For our boys, we're seeing a lot of taper fades, taper blowouts, and I hate to say it, but the mullet has never left. It's only been modified.
And why are those styles becoming so popular this year?
You know, when they see things on social media, pop culture, athletes, anything that they're seeing online, that's typically what the kids are trending towards.
And what are some of the easy haircut or styling tips that can help families get out of the door faster in the morning?
Yeah, so first things first is working with the hair and not against the hair. So making sure that if you have curly or textured hair, that you're getting a hairstyle or haircut that works with that hair. If it's straighter, making sure you add texture and volume so you can be quick and easy and out the door.
And if parents don't want to spend a lot of money, are there a few products that work well without costing a fortune?
Oh, yes, of course. So for your boys, if they're doing the taper blowout, you use a little bit of texture powder in the top. That'll create the volume that they're looking for. And for a little bit of hold, you just use some gel or mousse. And the thing with it, a little bit goes a long way. So really a dime size to a nickel size or one pump is good enough for the whole day. For your girls, using a little bit of leave-in conditioner or a little bit of styling cream or a natural curling cream to help cut down on the frizz and also add a little bit of movement to the hair.
And I know families are busy this time of year. How can technology help make a salon visit quicker and less stressful?
So Great Clips likes to take the fuss out of that with our online check-in app. You can download the app, check in online as many of the kiddos as you need to. Mom and dad can also get a haircut. And the great thing about it is it'll tell you exactly what the wait time is, and then it'll give you a little notification to let you know that it's your turn to come into the salon. So nice, easy, and breezy.
And where can everyone go to learn more?
Yeah, so to learn more about back to school tips or downloading the Great Clips app, you can go to greatclips.com/back to school.
Astoria Stubbs, thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thank you so much for having me, Kayla.
And that's going to do it for this week's episode of the Dallas Download. Thanks so much for spending part of your day with us. Be sure to follow us on social media for even more fun between episodes and join us again next week for another edition of the Dallas Download.